Welcome back to Reading with Mo. I'm very excited to share with you guys 10 new releases of books that are going to be coming out in the month of July. Now, I know there's many more books that are going to be coming out in July, but these are the 10 that most interest me and that I feel like I'm most likely to try to pick up, at least not necessarily in July, but at least at some point in the future. Okay, let's get into the 10 books that I wanted to share with you guys. So the first one that's up is a book called This Book Might Be About Xenia, and this is by Brittany Morris. And Brittany Morris is actually an author that I really enjoy. Also, because the very first time I ever got an ARC in my life, like years ago, was for, I believe it was her debut novel at the time called Slay. I don't read a lot of young adult books anymore, but occasionally there are ones I do pick up, mainly because they are authors that are auto-buy authors for me that I know I'm going to enjoy their writing. This book is described as Clap When You Land meets Monday's Not Coming. Those are two young adult books that I really enjoyed myself by two authors that I really enjoy, so that already sold me on this book. But what this book is about is it's following two different timelines. We're following two teenagers. One of them is looking for her biological mother, and the other one has given up her baby. Somehow their stories are going to become connected. The cover on this is very beautiful. Because of how much I did enjoy Slay, I have high hopes that I will enjoy this one. Next, we have Bittersweet by Hattie Williams. This is a fiction book following a young book publicist, and she finds herself in an all-consuming workplace affair with her literary idol. This is the author's debut novel. We're following our main character, who is a 23-year-old publicity assistant at London's preeminent independent book publishing house, and the author that she is having an affair with, he's 56, married, and he's an author who's defined his generation. Normally, I'm not really drawn to reading too many books that feature an affair as like one of the main plot lines. What drew me to this book, even though it's not one that I feel like I typically would be that interested in picking up, is I feel like it has a potential to really look at the vulnerability our main character is in, especially when it's exploring power and the different dynamics that come with that, especially in the workplace. Next, we have Finding Grace by Loretta Rothschild, and this is a fiction novel. It's described as a twisty, gripping novel that wraps around a deeply moving love story. We're following our main character who seems to have everything. She has a daughter and husband who seem perfect, but her husband is always working, and she really wants another baby, but there's a shocking event that happens that changes all of their lives forever. The husband, Tom, makes a decision that ripples through their family's lives in ways he couldn't have foreseen, and the consequences mean that two women's paths become irrevocably intertwined. Then we have a mystery book, and it's called Miss Caroline Bingley, Private Investigator by Kelly Gardner and Sharmini Kumar. I'm not often interested in reading or someone who picks up cozy mysteries, but the premise of this one is what really drew me in. This is a retelling of Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, and if you don't know, July is Jane Austen July, and I'm going to really be trying to participate in that in this year, so potentially I'll pick this one up to fit with one of the prompts of reading a retelling. And so we're following the story of a missing maid that leads Miss Caroline Bingley into murder and mayhem in the gritty underbelly of Regency London. A Regency mystery that's also a Pride and Prejudice Jane Austen retelling. I feel like these have the ingredients that will lead me to really enjoying this book. Next up, we have a thriller, and this is actually a sequel, which really, I don't really often read anything that has sequels, at least to the books that I read that are in the mystery thriller genre. And this one is The Woman in Suite 11 by Ruth Ware. And this is the sequel to her first book, The Woman in Cabin 10, which is actually coming out as a movie. I have a whole video coming out in the next week sharing some books movie adaptations that are coming out soon, and I was very interested in seeing that this one comes out with a sequel soon. So I'm only assuming that they're probably gonna make this one into a movie as well if the first movie does well. I don't want to give too much away that could potentially be a spoiler for the first book, so just completely skip ahead if you don't want anything. I'm not gonna give anything too much, but like if you don't want to know a single thing, then just skip ahead like 20 seconds or something. So we're following Lo Blacklock, who is the main character. I believe that was from the first book, and she returns to attend the opening of a luxury hotel only to find herself in a white-knuckled race across Europe. I'm just going to leave it there. Like I said, I don't want to say anything that's going to be too much of a spoiler there because this is a sequel. Next up, we have Jamaica Road by Alyssa Smith. This is a fiction story that's following a love story about two best friends who fall in love for each other. and eventually fall apart, and they try to find their way back together in their tight-knit British Jamaican community. It takes place in South London, or at least starts off in South London in the 1980s. We're following Daphne, who is the only black girl in her class, and she just kind of wants to keep her head down, be unnoticed. A boy named Connie arrives from Jamaica, and they end up forming this bond together. The whole novel spans about 1 decade of time, from the industrial docklands of Thames all the way to the sandy beaches of Calabash Bay, Jamaica. Road is a novel that's the author's debut novel, and it's an exploration on race and class, the family that you're born with, and the family that you choose. Next, we have a short story collection. I don't often pick up short story collections, but this one really drew me in. Also, I mean, come on, look at the cover. How can I not be interested in reading this book? It's called Make Your Way Home by Carrie R. Moore. And this is a debut collection of stories, and they're all set across the American South, and they feature characters who are struggling with love and finding belonging in the wake of painful histories. And there's 11 short stories altogether in this collection. They span from Florida marshes, North Carolina mountains, and southern metropolitan cities. We are following the stories of 11 different black men and women who are grappling with the homes that have eluded them. These stories are steeped in place and history and explore the themes of belonging, inheritance, and deep intimacy. Next up, we have a romance, and I do not read a lot of romance books, but I would say I'm at the point in my life where I'm reading the most romance that I ever have. So take that as you will. This one is, I mean, come on, look at the cover as well on this one. So cute. It's called Only Lovers in the Building by Nadine Gonzalez. This book to me kind of just sounds and looks like the perfect summer beach read. It also takes place in Miami. So of course, me living in South Florida, it also drew me to wanting to pick up this book. We're following our main character who her legal career comes to a sudden and humiliating end. She books a summer rental at a place called the Icon, a quintessential Art Deco building in Miami Beach, where her only plan is to bask in the sun, read, and sip cocktails, which sounds like the perfect time to me. She becomes enchanted by the colorful community, including university professor Benedicto Romero, resident tortured poet whose sole intention for sabbatical is to indulge in brooding introspection. They discover a shared passion for romance novels, and I'm just gonna leave it there. I don't want to read too much and spoil like the whole plot for you guys and for myself. So there's one more young adult book that I wanted to share with you guys, and it's called A Theory of Dreaming by Ava Reed. This is a follow-up to, and I can't even remember if this is now like the second or third book in this series, but the first book in the series is A Study in Drowning, and I'm currently reading that book. I'm not super far into it. I'm maybe like 60 to 80 pages in so far, but I am enjoying it. I'm still very much at the beginning of the novel. Since this is a book that's further along in the series, I can't really give too much away, and I haven't fully finished the first book, so I'm not like completely committed that I'm gonna be reading this book. I need to see how the first one goes, but so far I am enjoying the writing style. Even though it's a young adult book, I feel like the writing reads a little bit older, not completely adult, but the characters that we're following, I believe they're just graduating out of college. So they're not like very young teens. This is more of like an older teen series. In the first book, so far what I've gotten is that we're following our main character, Evie, and she is an architecture student. She wants to be a literature student, but in whatever society, like this is like a fantasy book as well. So I haven't really gotten to the fantasy elements so much yet, so I can't explain that. But where she lives, like, it's not okay for women to go into certain subjects. So she really wants to be in literature, but she's not allowed. So she goes into architecture because it's like one of the most prestigious ones that's available for women. She ends up applying for and getting an assignment to redesign this kind of like very run down, but well-known or has some sort of backstory building old manor type of thing, and that's just where I'm gotten. Sorry, I don't have more information, but that's as far as I've gotten so far, and I don't really want to read the plot because I'm currently reading the book and potentially give myself spoilers for what's about to happen next. Lastly, we have a novel called Love Forms by Claire Adam. She also wrote the book Golden Child, which I've seen the cover around a lot, but I never picked up myself. So if I do enjoy this book, then I'll maybe go back and pick up Golden Child. This is a story about a woman who is searching for the daughter she gave up for adoption. We're following our main character, Dawn. She's 58 with a divorce behind her and 2 grown-up sons who are busy with their own lives. She keeps returning to the past and to the secret that she's kept all of these years. At 16, Dawn found herself pregnant, and as was common in Trinidad back then, her parents sent her away to have the baby and to give it up for adoption. So now as she's older, she wants to try to reconnect with the daughter that she lost. Of course, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be anywhere as easy as she thought it might be. And it's an emotional journey that leads her to retrace her steps from Trinidad to Venezuela and then to London. So those are all 10 titles that I'm excited for that are coming out in the month of July. Let me know if any of these piqued your guys' interest, or if you feel like there's any ones that you want me to prioritize trying to read in July. Like, I'm sure I'll read at least a couple of these. If there's any other books that are coming out in July that you want to share, go ahead and leave that in the comments down below. If there's ones that you're excited about, and don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate you guys' support so much, and I will see you again very soon. Bye.